Smile. Be grateful. Stay positive. That's what you're told, isn't it? But what if I told you those three words, the ones we celebrate as wisdom, are sometimes chains disguised as freedom? Because here's the paradox. The very thing we praise as the cure for suffering can secretly be the cage that deepens it. And if you've ever plastered a smile on your face while your insides were breaking, you know exactly what I mean. In this video, we're exposing the dark side of positivity, the one no one dares to talk about. You'll discover why this obsession with good vibes only is quietly harming us, how it blinds us from truth, and how breaking free from it can change the way you live. Stay until the very end, because I'll reveal an insight so powerful, it will flip your understanding of positivity upside down. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss these deep dives into psychology and philosophy. Hit like if this already resonates, and share this with someone who's tired of pretending everything is fine. And let's hear from you. Comment below, have you ever felt pressured to stay positive when deep down you were breaking apart? Now let's dive deeper, because positivity isn't always what it seems. Sometimes it's not the medicine, it's the mask. Sometimes it doesn't heal, it hides. And the question we have to ask is this: when does positivity stop being strength and start becoming a dangerous lie? Why do we cling so desperately to positivity? Why do we force smiles when we want to scream, whisper gratitude when we're drowning in despair, or post cheerful quotes online while our lives quietly unravel? The answer lies in the way society has rebranded positivity, not as a tool, but as an identity. From childhood, you're told to cheer up, be good, don't cry. Every tear that made adults uncomfortable was shushed with, be happy. Schools praised the well-behaved, quiet child, not the one who admitted frustration. Even religion often tied virtue to joy. Suffering must be endured silently, but gratitude is holy. Slowly, you learn that pain is not to be expressed, it is to be hidden. This is where the problem begins, because positivity, in its purest form, can heal. But forced positivity, it becomes denial disguised as virtue. Psychologists call this toxic positivity, the cultural obsession with happiness at all costs. It's the belief that negative emotions are failures, that sadness means weakness, that anger means immaturity. And so we exile half of the human experience into silence, pretending it doesn't exist. Carl Jung warned us about this very danger. One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Yet modern culture has twisted this. Instead of confronting darkness, we're encouraged to ignore it, masking it with motivational slogans, Instagram affirmations, and good vibes only t-shirts. Never show weakness. But what if weakness is where real strength begins? What if honesty, not forced cheer, is the gateway to healing? If this strikes a chord, pause and like this video right now, because far too many people are suffocating behind false smiles. And comment below, have you ever felt guilty for not being happy enough? Let's break that silence together. Let's spark a conversation that is the need of the hour. Because here's the unsettling truth. Positivity itself isn't the enemy. It's the way we weaponize it. When positivity becomes a command, it doesn't free us. It enslaves us. And if we keep obeying that command, the shadow we've buried, the sadness, the rage, the despair, will break free in ways far more destructive than we imagine. Which leads us to the next step. What happens when this obsession with positivity isn't just personal, but collective? What unseen consequences ripple through our lives, our relationships, and even society itself? This is the first consequence: emotional repression. You bury sadness under forced smiles, but it festers, leaking out as anxiety, exhaustion, or numbness. You silence anger in the name of staying calm, but it resurfaces as resentment and passive aggression. You deny fear to appear strong, but it multiplies in your body as stress, illness, and chronic unease. Neuroscience confirms this. Repressed emotions overload the nervous system, weakening immunity and fueling disease. But repression doesn't stop at the self. It twists your relationships. This is the second consequence: disconnection. Imagine a friend who always says, "I'm fine," even when they're crumbling. At first, you believe them, but over time, you stop feeling close because closeness requires truth. When positivity becomes a mask, intimacy dies. How many friendships, marriages, families fall apart not because of negativity, but because people were too afraid to admit their pain, and the damage expands further. This is the third consequence: collective denial. Entire cultures weaponize positivity. Workplaces celebrate resilience while exploiting exhaustion. Governments preach hope while ignoring injustice. Social media platforms drown in highlight reels where only smiles are allowed. The collective shadow swells: rage, grief, despair, all unspoken until it bursts as violence, mental health crises, or cultural collapse. Jung warned us, "The greatest danger to civilization lies not in the forces of nature, nor in any physical disease, but in our inability to deal with the forces of our own unconscious, and perhaps the cruelest consequence of all, self-betrayal. By silencing your pain, you betray yourself. You deny your own experience in order to fit an illusion of strength. You tell yourself you're being resilient, when really, you're abandoning the most vulnerable parts of who you are. And over time, this hollows you out. You wake up one day smiling, but the smile belongs to someone you don't even recognize. If this resonates, don't keep it to yourself. Share this video with someone you know who might be suffocating under the weight of forced positivity. And tell me in the comments, have you ever pretended to be okay for so long that you started to feel like a stranger to yourself? Now, here's the haunting paradox. Positivity, when used as a mask, doesn't remove pain, it intensifies it. The more you force happiness, the further true healing slips away. The shadow grows larger, the cost of silence grows heavier, and one day, the mask cracks. Which brings us to the breaking point. If positivity can harm as much as it helps, how do we reclaim it without being consumed? How do we rebel against this cultural lie and discover a way of being that is both authentic and powerful? Imagine standing in front of a mirror. You've smiled into that reflection 1,000 times, even on days when you were breaking inside. But this time, you stop. You let the smile fall. And for the first time, you see the face beneath. The raw truth you've been hiding, not just from the world, but from yourself. That moment, when you refuse to pretend, is the beginning of rebellion. Because the rebellion against toxic positivity doesn't start with rage or denial. It starts with honesty. Carl Jung warned, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." And that's exactly what rebellion requires, not running from negative emotions, but naming them. Sadness, anger, fear. Instead of saying, "I'm fine," you dare to whisper, "I'm not okay." This is not weakness, this is power. Step 1 of the rebellion, permission. Give yourself permission to feel without judgment. Sadness isn't failure. Anger isn't immaturity. Fear isn't weakness. They are signals, truths meant to guide you. Step 2, expression. Journaling, art, therapy, honest conversations, any form that allows truth to breathe. Expression is how emotions transform from poison to medicine. Step 3, integration. Positivity, when authentic, doesn't deny pain, it sits beside it. True resilience is the union of light and dark, hope and despair, joy and grief. It's not good vibes only, it's all vibes allowed. History gives us examples. The Stoics, often misinterpreted as cold, weren't about suppressing emotion. They practiced acceptance, to see things as they are, not as they wish them to be. Viktor Frankl, surviving the concentration camps, wrote that meaning was found not in forced optimism, but in the courage to face suffering honestly. The rebellion is counterintuitive because it looks like surrender, but it isn't. When you stop fighting your negative emotions, you reclaim the energy wasted on pretending, and that energy becomes your strength. If you're ready to join this rebellion, subscribe right now. Because here, we don't do surface-level stay happy slogans, we do deep truths that set people free. And tell me in the comments, if you dropped the mask today, what truth about yourself would finally come out? But let's be clear, This rebellion takes courage. You will disappoint those who only want your smile. You will scare those who can't face their own pain. And you will be tempted to run back to the mask. But hold steady. Because on the other side of rebellion lies something greater than happiness. It is wholeness. And here's where the paradox flips. When you stop forcing positivity, authentic positivity finally arrives. Not the brittle smile of denial, but the deep peace of someone who has faced everything and survived. Which brings us to the final, most powerful insight. What lies beyond toxic positivity and how embracing the full spectrum of your humanity can transform your life in ways that good vibes only never could. Imagine waking up tomorrow with no mask, no forced smile, no pressure to say, "I'm fine," when you're not. Just raw, unfiltered honesty. Terrifying? Yes. Liberating? Absolutely. Because here's the ultimate truth. The goal of life is not to be endlessly positive, it's to be fully human. Carl Jung taught that wholeness doesn't come from clinging to one side of experience. It comes from uniting both, light and dark, joy and sorrow, hope and despair. He wrote, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." The unconscious he spoke of isn't just the shadow of rage or envy. It's also the grief, the fear, the despair we silence in the name of positivity. And here's the paradox. When you stop forcing yourself to be positive, real positivity finally has room to emerge. Not the brittle grin of denial, but the steady glow of someone who has faced the storm and knows they have the immense strength it takes to survive it. The final realization is this: to reject pain is to reject half of your soul. And when you exile half of your soul, you don't get strength, you get fragility. But when you embrace all of it, the tears, the rage, the fear, you stop shattering every time life doesn't go your way. You become unbreakable, not because you're always happy, but because you're whole. Think about it. True resilience is not good vibes only. It's all vibes welcomed. It's knowing that despair has lessons, that grief has depth, that even fear can guide. It's the courage to sit in the dark without rushing for the light, and in doing so, to discover that the light was never gone, it was waiting to be seen through honest eyes. If this resonates, hit like so more people can find this message. Subscribe if you're ready to keep exploring the truths no one else talks about. And tell me in the comments, what's one emotion you've been avoiding that you're finally ready to sit with? Now, imagine a society that lived this way, where workplaces didn't demand fake smiles, but supported honest struggles, where friendships allowed tears as much as laughter, where families didn't shush grief, but honored it. A world where we stopped worshiping happiness and started practicing humanity. That's the revolution. And it begins with you. But here's where the journey takes its next twist. Because even as you drop the mask of positivity and embrace your full humanity, another force is shaping you, quietly, invisibly, every second of your day. A force more pervasive than culture, more addictive than emotion. A force that doesn't just shape what you think, it rewires who you are. That force is technology. And in our next video, we'll explore how technology isn't just changing your habits, it's rewiring your very soul. The question is, if your devices are quietly sculpting your mind, your emotions, and even your sense of self, then who or what are you really becoming? Stay tuned, because you cannot afford to ignore the answer. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to this channel for more of such deep, thought-provoking content.